I want to preface this video by stating that I love Genshin Impact's story. So much care and effort goes into it, and I appreciate all that hard work. This includes the most recent interlude chapter, but I do also have some issues and criticisms regarding it. I don't claim to be a better writer than the people actually hired for it, I'm just a student. But storytelling is one of my passions, so I want to talk about how I might have changed the interlude, and of course, you don't have to agree with me. Spoilers for the new interlude chapter and version of Genesis, obviously, but also for Act 5 of Chapter 3 and the ending of the Aranyaga questline. And without further ado, let's just get started. First, I'll praise the positives. I believe that Scaramouche/Wanderer's characterization was excellent throughout the entire quest. Every action he took felt believable and in line with his character, and by the end of the quest, it's clear that he has grown a little, and though he still has a lot to learn, he's headed in the right direction. I'm glad that he ultimately kept his memories and chose to make up for his past sins, even though no one else remembers, so they wouldn't hold anything against him. The most important part of our redemption, especially for a character like this, is that they acknowledge their mistakes in the past and strive to do better in the future. So I think Wanderer's redemption was handled really well. And that was the core of the quest, so I'd say the interlude succeeded in what mattered the most. That said, everything else felt a bit lacking. Not bad, but not as good as it could have been. I'll go over my criticisms as I summarize and rewrite the chapter, and I will stay as close as I can to the original plot, which I think works fine. So, the Traveler and Paimon overhear talk about a mysterious incident in Tatarasuna, and the theory that a puppet was involved. We quickly surmise that the puppet was probably Scaramouche, and we just so happened to spot him then. Worried that he may be up to no good, we follow him to the sanctuary of Surasthana, where Nahida explains that she asked for his help to investigate Irminsul. At her request, we accompany him into Irminsul to find information on our sibling, and we come across memories of the Tatarasuna that reveal that Dottore was behind the incident and he fooled Scaramouche into believing he'd been betrayed. Regarding the Tatarasuna incident, I was very interested to learn what actually happened, but the way it was presented in the quest wasn't very exciting. I understand needing an easy way for casual players to catch up with Scaramouche's hard-to-find lore, but an exposition dump isn't much better. If you didn't care about the Tatarasuna and Scaramouche before, you probably still won't after this interlude. But it's at least an effective way to deliver the lore, so the essay, the memory, and the domain later can stay. Not the novel though, that was just unnecessary, so I would scrap it. As for the incident itself, Dottore being behind the sabotage and manipulating the Kabuki Mono was a good move, and I like how things played out. The only thing I would change is that Katsuragi and Niwa should have been the same person. In the original H notes that contained hints of this lore, Katsuragi was suggested to be the Kabuki Mono's closest friend. It would have been more impactful if he were the Niwa that Scaramouche felt betrayed by, instead of Niwa being a separate person and Katsuragi just also being there. Niwa is a surname or family name, and Katsuragi didn't have one, so it wouldn't have been hard to make him Niwa Katsuragi. Now back to the story. Scaramouche, upon learning the truth, takes the drastic measure of erasing himself through Irminsul, believing that the people of Tatarasuna would have had a better fate without him. Once we realize he seemingly succeeded, because Paimon no longer remembers him, we rush back to Inazuma to see what else might have changed. First, we ask about the Raiden-Gokaden, which Scaramouche originally sabotaged as revenge for the Tatarasuna betrayal. In the new memories, the one responsible was a vengeful descendant of a swordsmith who died in the incident. We confirm that Kazuha and the Kamisato siblings still exist as we knew them, and that there were no signs of a Kabuki Mono in Tatarasuna, and we conclude that despite Scaramouche's erasure, history was barely altered. The first thing I change here that I'm surprised they didn't do is adding the playable characters we know instead of just mentioning them. That was the greatest strength of the previous two interludes. In this one, Kazuha could have told us the new legend of the Raiden-Gokaden, and just like we happened to arrive at the Kamisato estate when everyone was busy, we could have happened to arrive while everyone was having dinner together. I would have loved an interaction between Ayaka, Ayato, and Thoma, and we would have seen with our own eyes that they're still their usual selves instead of just trusting an NPC's word. And also, for reasons I'll explain later, I wouldn't have Scaramouche completely forgotten. I'd make it so there's still a vague idea of him, like a person no one remembers any details about. The story of a vengeful swordsmith would be something they came up with to fill in the gaps, since no one specifically remembers a puppet or Kabuki Mono. However, if someone knew the original story, I want there to still be a chance for them to somewhat remember it. Again, more on this later. So after the trip to Inazuma, we return to Sumeru to tell Nahida what happened. She believes us because she actually managed to save some record of the truth, in the form of an allegorical fairy tale. We then take some time to process our thoughts when we remember something important Rukkhadevata had said. that no one could erase themselves from existence. Sure enough, Scaramouche is still around, except he's not Scaramouche anymore, but a simple wanderer. He also has entirely new memories and a calmer personality, and he's cooperative when we take him back to Nahida. She explains the situation to him, and we experience his original memories through a domain. He then asks Nahida to return them to him, so he can be his true self again and face the consequences of his actions. The memories overwhelm him just as Shoki no Kami appears and begins to attack, but he recovers just in time to fight back with his newly acquired Anemo vision. And now comes a rather major issue I have with this quest. The way he gained his vision is fine, and so is the element. I'm not upset that he's no longer Electro. I've always believed Anemo was the best vision they could give him for a redemption because it represents him no longer being held back by his past, now free to move towards the future. However, there's no reaction to the fact that he got a vision, and it baffles me. It's not even acknowledged, not by the Traveler or Paimon, not by the Wanderer himself, and not by Nahida. This is the second time the Traveler can witness someone gain a vision, the first being the NPC Rana at the end of Aranyaka, and Paimon made a comment then. Why not this time? He's far more important to the story, and he fought Shoki no Kami with the vision in front of us. But there's not the slightest pondering about the meaning of Anemo, or that he got a gift from the gods he despised, or the vision as a replacement for the Gnosis or his heart, not even a mention. I kid you not, the word vision does not appear. So I would at least add a line or two reacting to it, even if the Wanderer immediately dismisses it. Afterward, he agrees to continue helping Nahida and work as hard as he can to make up for everything he did in the past. We get the option to give him a new name. At first, I was against this idea because I thought it'd be better if he chose a name for himself, but the story framed it in a way I quite liked. A name is life's first gift, and one he never got when he was created. Gifting him a new name now is the first step of his new life. And finally, the last scene of the interlude can stay the same. None of the changes I'd make affect it, as far as I understand at least. And I have a theory as to who that voice may belong to, but there's not a lot we can do with current information, so it's safer to leave it as is. Now, where do we go from here? The interlude chapter was okay, but there was a lot more potential to explore with Scaramouche that we'll never get to see now because the world forgot him. For example, interactions with other characters such as A or Kazuha and their impressions of him. Imagine A having to confront her creation and everything he did because she wasn't there for him. And how would Kazuha feel meeting the one responsible for his clan's decline? Neither of them know about that anymore. And that's why I said earlier that I wouldn't want Scaramouche's history completely erased. As things stand, they don't have a reason to remember him. But if the Wanderer really wants to take responsibility for his past, I think encounters like that are inevitable. So, instead of the world's memories acting like the past was different, his presence could still be in the records. Katsuragi found someone who spent time with their crew, there was a person who sabotaged the ride in Gokaden and suddenly stopped, and there was a sixth harbinger. It's just that there aren't enough details to identify who that person was. Written records may cut off or become unreadable whenever there's a hint about him, and people who actually met him would be unable to remember what he looked or sounded like, what he did or said, etc. It's like a crucial piece of the puzzle is missing, and without it, they can't know who he was. But if he were to come clean about it, they'd finally have that last piece, making it easier for them to know the truth. He wasn't replaced by someone else, nor absent where he should have been present. He was still there, and it was still him who did everything. So how would this be possible without changing how Irminsul works? Easy. The reason he can't be completely forgotten is the same reason he still exists at all. He can't erase his own existence. Everything that changed after Rukkhadevata's erasure would remain the same, because she was erased by someone else. This was not the case for Scaramouche, so that could be why there's still vague hints of him. Even he may not remember his past, but if he heard the legend of the ride in Gokaden, he'd feel some sort of deja vu. Maybe it causes him pain, so he chooses to ignore it and live on as a clueless wanderer, until he meets the Traveler and realizes he can't stay ignorant forever. As for the Fatui's perception of him, I don't think it matters that they could remember him more easily this way. Chances are they already have some sort of failsafe. After all, though no one remembers the sixth harbinger, the position still exists. And if Nahida had a backup of his memories, Totore also might. My point is, I don't think he's completely escaped the Fatui yet. One way or another, they're likely to catch up to him. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Inversion of Genesis, with everything I liked and everything I'd change. As I said at the beginning, I don't claim that my changes are better than the original interlude, and you're free to disagree with my opinions. Maybe in a future chapter, we'll get information that explains why this one was the way it was. But for now, that's all I wanted to say about it. And if you made it this far, I have a question. What did you name the Wanderer and why? Anyway, thank you for listening.